Good morning, everybody. Have you been to New York City? Well, if so, or even if not, you probably know a lot of the iconic buildings there, like the Empire State Building. And one of those is the George Washington Bridge, Interstate 95 today, which opened on this date, October 1 in 1931. The Hudson River flows about 315 miles from its source in the Adirondacks, almost due south to New York City, and one of its tributaries, the Mohawk, was the route of much of the Erie Canal when that was built in the early to mid 1800s. The source is more or less Lake Tier of the Clouds. This is on the shoulder of Mount Marcy, which is the highest point in New York State. We think the first bridge over the Hudson was built in 1804 north of Albany. Looked like this, perhaps, not sure. And then this bridge from 1840 was part of the water system to get water to New York City from the Catskills. This was an aqueduct. No longer used for that, but still a great way to cross the river. Everybody knows about the Brooklyn Bridge, 1883. Perhaps some of you have walked on it, which you can. But it was famous for its technological experimentation at the time and still looks very Gothic and is just a great part of New York. This is in Poughkeepsie, halfway between Albany and New York City, and this was the longest elevated railroad bridge at one point in 1889. This bridge is at Bear Mountain State Park. It was built in 1924, but this is where the Appalachian Trail crosses the Hudson. So if you hike on the AT, you'll spend a little bit of time on this bridge. In 1903, the Williamsburg Bridge was built across the East River over to Brooklyn, so another Brooklyn Bridge, so to speak. It had a record for being the longest at the time. And this one is known as the Rip Van Winkle Bridge. This is, you can see the Catskills in the background, built in 1935 and quite pretty in the autumn. So by the time we get to the 1920s, the traffic in New York City was just terrible, and urban planners wondered what to do. And some people said, let's build a new bridge across the Hudson, the northern part of Manhattan. Here you can see Manhattan's on its side. It's, a north-south island, even though hardly anybody was up there. And the design they picked was a suspension bridge. The physics of it, the force from the cables is transferred to the towers, which go down below. And what was cool about the GW's location is it was right by the Palisades, the cliffs, so they didn't have to worry about raising it. The height was already high because of the landform. And this is kind of a generic design of bridges back then, so it had room for cars, it had room for trolleys and subways and trains, and it had room for pedestrians. And in the original plan, it was going to be covered with granite and concrete, but they ran out of money, so they didn't do that. And here it is, just the girders, and that's part of its appeal today. So it opened on this day, October 1, in 1931. Here's a photo of it being built. It was under budget and done quicker than they thought, so that was pretty good. The first highway over the George Washington Bridge was US Route 1, and then when the interstates were set up, and here's the map of the interstate system, what to do with Interstate 95, which parallels Route 1. And 95 did not cross at the George Washington Bridge until a second deck was added in 1962. So you can see the I-95 sign and then the words upper deck and lower deck. So now it's a 14-lane highway. That's really something. In 2013, it underwent a big restoration. Here you can see the workmen, going up and down with New York City in the background. So it's carries tons of traffic today. And when you're in New York City at night and the lights are up, there's all kinds of cool views. You think of the Empire State Building, but look north along the Hudson, and there's the George Washington Bridge, looking great.